briefly a few things. First one is when Obama went to receive his Nobel Peace Prize. I was in China, and China's newspaper published an article saying the Nobel Peace laureates ready to sell arms to Taiwan. Okay, because the Congress of the United States has approved some sales of submarines, some missiles, and helicopters to Taiwan, but which was a long time ago approved by Bush, and now being also approved by the Congress. And so Obama, it's on his desk to sign. So China was very kind of upset, saying, Obama went to China pretty much very conciliatory, and now is selling arms. So Nobel Peace laureates, 诺贝尔和平奖得主，卖武器。Okay, so that's rather ironic. That's one. Second one is Obama might have heard that some of the students in National Tsinghua University, we were studying, all the doctrines last week, and said we don't have a clear Obama doctrine. So he spelled out in his Nobel, in receiving the Peace Prize. So now today, we have Obama doctrine. He was, responding to our call, saying we don't have an Obama doctrine. So he said, well, some NTHU students, I heard that they were studying all the presidential foreign policy doctrines, and they need me to spell out my administration. So he gave us one. So today we're going to look at this speech and help each one. We help ourselves to define what is Obama doctrine. I think we can, somehow get it. Okay. And in the very beginning, I don't think it's very important, but I still want to go over. Always got the wrong one. Always. Okay. Here, the very beginning, he said gratitude and humility. Of course, he felt he doesn't deserve it. And but he says our actions do matter in the direction of justice. So that's the key word here, justice. Okay. And in the very beginning, he acknowledged. He said, "I will be remiss," means I'll be negligent. I will be overlook something if I don't acknowledge controversy. He knew his receipt of this award is very controversial, right? A president fighting a war in Iraq, fighting a war in Afghanistan, and then also what? Just a few days ago, he announced the increase, the surge of troops in Afghanistan. So he said, this decision has been generous decision, means you're too kind to me, but it caused controversy. So that's the reason you have the laughter. But he said here, this is because I am at the beginning, not at the end of my labor on the world stage. Just beginning. Compared to others, giants received this prize. So I'm going to ask you here, Pan Yian, who is Schweitzer? Albert Schweitzer, a German physician in Africa, popular in Taiwan, in certain small group. So Schweitzer医生. Okay, I think I learned about him when I was a high school student. My Chinese teacher is a fan of Schweitzer, and he wrote a lot of things about Schweitzer. Okay, so Schweitzer and King, Lin Yiming. Who is King? Dr. King. 金博士。Some Chinese use the King, right? Last name. They said, "Wow, King, K-I-N-G." Who is Dr. King? Yeah, Dr. Martin Luther King, right? Okay. So next one, Marshall, 张顺杰。张顺杰不在吗？蔡义兴也不在。哇，这个吕义生、赖世恩、王仁佑。Yeah, who is Marshall? I think I mentioned. Marshall, very famous in Chinese history during the Civil War. Yeah, General Marshall, who was the Secretary of State, failed in his mediation effort in China between communists and nationalists. But he was also responsible for what? For the European recovery by introducing, we call the Marshall Plan, right? The Marshall Plan. And now everybody talk about a new Marshall Plan. Always saying, if you help certain country to recover, and then, they will become a positive force in the international community. So Marshall, Secretary of State of the United States in the late 40s and early 50s, late 40s. And Mandela. Anybody who have not heard of Mandela, he's over 90 years old from South Africa. So all this are people who received the prize. And they compare, Obama said, my accomplishment, very little, right? And then the second group, he said, I cannot compare to those men and women around the world jailed, beaten in the pursuit of justice. And those who toil in humanitarian organization to relieve suffering, like Mother Teresa, right? Unrecognized million whose quiet acts of courage and compassion inspire even the most hardened cynics. So a lot of unsung heroes, right, already there. He said, I cannot argue with those as well, who find they are more deserving than Obama. Okay, so Obama said, why am I receiving the war? I think this is what he said. He said, well, because I am commander-in-chief of the most powerful nation in the world, right? Of the military of a nation. And also another one reason is controversy is he is in the middle of two wars, Iraqi and Afghanistan. One is winding down. Which one is winding down? 郑杰. Yeah. 在吗? Yeah, which one is winding down? Iraqi, okay, supposed to be winding down. Okay. And one, the other one is a conflict that American did not seek. Which one? 丁宇涵. 谢欣平. 有吗? 张根豪. 徐文静. 有没有叫到? 有，那你们都不回答，都不举手。 Okay. So, okay, which one is the one that did not seek? American did not seek this war. Which one? Okay, America is in two wars. I mean, I think we know that right now. This is American politics class. I think at least you know America is fighting two wars. One already winding down, Iraq. So the other one, Iraq, the other one must be Iran, right? Is America at war with Iran now? No? Okay, Iraq, if it's not Iraq, must be, what? Which one? Taiwan? No. China? Which one? I mean, you're helping each other and you still don't get this one? Okay, Afghanistan. But why Afghanistan is not a war that Americans seek? Why is America in Afghanistan? Oh, because, you know, the Russians were there before, the British were there before, the Chinese were there before. So if you have to be a superpower, you have to wander into Afghanistan to prove you're a superpower. Is that the case? Really? No, if that's the case, America say, we do not seek the war. What does that mean? Like, did China seek a war with Japan during the 1930s? China was fighting a war against Japan, right? So did China seek the war? Hey, come on, fight me. Yeah. No, so what does that mean? Yeah, to seek a war. Yeah, okay, so what does that mean? Obama did not seek the war. America did not seek the war in Afghanistan. Did Afghanistan attack the United States? Wow, those people in all those remote mountain areas suddenly decide, hey, you know, we should all, you know, travel to America and attack, right? Did they attack the United States? No, so then why is America there? Okay, so America was attacked by terrorists, and terrorists were hiding in Afghanistan, right? So Afghanistan was the haven, safe haven for terrorists. That's the reason I'm saying, wait, we did not seek this war. And this war, not only America didn't go. What does that mean? We did not seek the war. We saw the war in Iraq. Do you understand? Bush saw a war in Iraq because Iraq didn't attack the United States. But Afghanistan did have terrorists. Okay, Iraq didn't have terrorists, nor weapons of mass destruction. Iraq, almost like United States, said, we just don't like you. Especially Bush said, you know, one time Iraqi president was not happy with his father, tried to assassinate George Bush Sr. in the 1990s. So Bush's argument is that, after all, they tried to kill my father. So I'm going back there. But here, also United States joined by 42 countries, including Norway. So Norway also joined the United States to defend ourselves. So what do we call this? Self-defense. Okay, self-defense. That's justified. You can justify fighting other people if it's self-defense. Okay, so that's one thing we understand now. One little principle coming out of Obama, self-defense. Okay, and preventing countries from further attack. Still, he said we are at war and responsible for deployment of thousands of young Americans there. Some will kill and some will be killed. Okay, very truthful. You know, you send people there, they're going to kill local rebels, and some of them will be killed. But he said, I understand this armed conflict. There were a lot of questions between war and peace. Okay, and we would like to replace war with peace. So he understood all this. This question not new, but from the very beginning, the first man, okay, from Adam all the way down, and the dawn of history, morality was not questioned, which means in the very beginning, when you fight a war, people say, oh, yeah, it's okay. The moral side is not questioned. But it's just a fact, like drought or disease. Today, I don't think we accept drought or disease, saying, oh, that's natural disaster. We always say, yeah, it is natural disaster, but also man-made factor involved. But the war, he said, in the very beginning, when tribes and civilization sought power, they want to get power or they want to settle their difference, they went to war. People accept the fact. But over time, this is a very important part of his speech. This is where we want to find Obama doctrine. Okay, he said, codes of law sought to control violence within group. So some kind of law, people agree, saying, well, we need to follow certain rules, certain code. For example, today in Taiwan, we said, hey, married couple can have disagreements, but no physical violence. Right? I think everybody agree in Taiwan. And some people went even further, said no verbal violence, verbal abuse. You cannot have physical abuse, but even verbal abuse. So philosophers, you understand philosophers, but who are clerics? 回到谢欣颖在，刚才有在吗 ？Yeah, okay. Who are clerics? 你们不能坐在那么低 okay? Like lying down so comfortably. Right? I know you're not, eating chicken legs, but who are the clerics? Philosophers, you understand. Statesmen, do you understand statesmen? Well, I'm sorry if you don't understand. I apologize for Taiwan because we don't have statesmen. We only have politicians. Right? That's the reason you don't know what is a statesman. What is a statesman? 政治家. In Taiwan, we only have politicians, 政客, huh? Okay. But who are the clerics? Who care about all this violence? In addition to philosophers? Like in Taiwan, who will care about, Ms. Xie, who will care about violence in Taiwan? Who are the clerics? Pastors? Okay, just religious leader, right? Okay, so we have religious leader also try to regulate, means try to control the destructive power of war. So a new concept, a concept of a just war, means if you want to fight a war, the war has to be just. So what are some of the conditions of this so-called just war? He said, the war is justified only when certain conditions were met. For example, first one, if it is waged, you fought a war as a last resort. Means I have tried everything, every alternative, but cannot work. So, yeah, I have to fight the war. Okay, so that's the first one. Or in self-defense. Okay, self-defense. Earlier we mentioned that. So, fighting a just war. First condition for a just war is last resort. Otherwise, people call those people like war prone, like to fight a war. Okay, you want to fight a war? No, you don't. Okay, so last resort, self-defense, and if it's used, it is proportional. Proportional means if you fight someone, for example, right now, we know Afghanistan might be harboring, might be hiding some terrorists, right? And United States said, yeah, we got 2,000 people, more than 2,000 killed in New York's Twin Towers during this 9/11 attack. So, why don't we just drop a nuclear bomb in Afghanistan, in Kabul, in the capital of Afghanistan? That's not proportional. Okay? Proportional, you understand. For example, if someone kill another person, we said, well, that's a crime. Maybe you pay, your crime by being killed as well, okay, executed. But if you said, well, I steal a piece of bread, but happen to steal, it's stealing, so shot. That's not proportional. Okay, so you understand proportional. Fighting a war has to be proportional. And fourth one, when possible, civilians are spared from violence. Means you do not kill innocent civilians. So we have the two principles here in just war. One we call use in bello. One we call use et bellum. Justice of war and justice in war. So how do we translate this? Use in bello means you have good reason to fight a war. Justified reason, good reason. So almost like 战争权. So self-defense is it. Okay, last resort. Good reason. Use in bello. Again, if some smaller countries accidentally kill an American tourist, Obama said, why don't we bomb the city? Okay. First of all, accidentally killing an American tourist does not warrant a war. Okay. Maybe, probably not even apology from the government. Just accident. Like if, I remember, there are people, foreigners happen to die in Taiwan, or we're going to have this Jiangcheng meeting in Taichung, right, next week. So maybe we're going to hit Chen Yuning again. So China said, oh, you hit Chen Yuning or you protest, we fight a war against Taiwan. That will not be a good reason. Okay, so that's you have to have a good reason to fight a war. And then in a war, 战争法 means you have to follow certain rules recognized by civilized countries. So first, it has to be proportional. Like you don't overkill. Okay? Secondly, you have to treat people, civilians or women, you have to spare them. You are fighting the regular military. You are not fighting the innocent civilian. Any question on this two parts? This is part of the Obama's idea of a just war. And so here, maybe his doctrine is coming out, okay? But he said, we know for most history, concept of just war rarely observed. People do not pay attention to that. The capacity of human beings to think of new way to kill one another prove inexhaustible. Well, starting from the knife, from the sword, from poison, all kinds of chemical, biological weapons, nuclear weapons, right? So all kinds of things. And also capacity to exempt from mercy those who look different or pray to different God. Means people just have all kinds of reason to kill. People who worship a different God, means different religion, or look different, getting killed. So that's the problem. Between armies gave way to war between nations. Used to be fighting between armies, but now nations. So, and also it's very difficult to distinct use at balance, justice in war. How do we distinguish civilian from military nowadays? I mean, before, it's very easy, right? The military people will wear uniform. Now, some of the terrorists, you don't even know they are civilian or armed with rebels. That's one. Secondly, usually we think women and children should be spared. But there are a lot of women terrorists, right? Okay, I'm not talking about women armies. I mean, I know there are some women recruits in Taiwan not doing very kind things, but women not in the army, but even as terrorists, they will put some, bombs on themselves and try to destroy something. So very difficult to distinguish the combatant and the civilian became blurred, means not very clear, right? So 30 years now, such carnage means killing. So what do you mean by 30 years here? Xu Wenjing. What do we mean by 30 years? Such carnage would twice engulf this continent. This continent, where was Obama gave this speech? Where did he give this speech? Nobel Peace Prize, where did he go to receive? Remember earlier he mentioned that country also helped America in Afghanistan. What's the country? Norway. So which continent is Norway? Europe. Okay, so what does that mean? 30 years, in a span of 30 years, that carnage, that means that mass killing took place. What does that? Can you do the math? Like between the two wars, right? When did World War I end? When did World War II start? Or when did World War I start? When did World War II end? That would be a better question. Almost 30 years. So can you do that? When did World War I start? 1914. When did World War II end? 45. So minus, so getting the math. So we have 31 years, right? So about 30 years. Twice engulf means overwhelm the continent of Europe, right? And hard to conceive a cause more than just defeat the Third Reich. Okay, so it is, people say, of a cause. This is a good reason you defeat the Third Reich. Okay, Third Reich is Hitler and the Axis power. Okay, who are the Axis power? Guo Daoru. Yeah, who are the Axis power? We know about the what? The axis of evil. But who are the Axis power? During World War II, 3 countries. Only 3 bad guys. We have all the rest are good guys. Who are the bad guys in World War II? I mean, this is the easier way, right? The bad guy, the good guys. Yes. Japan, Italy, and Germany. Okay, so those are the Axis power, right? They are either fascist or what we call military power, and try to expand and occupy other countries. So mostly this is self-defense. Okay, so World War II was a conflict. Remember this one. Total number of civilians who died exceeded the number of soldiers who perished. So hey, don't we talk about use at balance, justice in war? You don't kill women, innocent civilian. No, during World War II, more civilian died, less soldier died. Okay, the same thing right now in Afghanistan. Sometimes the Americans or in Iraq accidentally kill a lot of civilians. Okay, so this is the problem here. Yes, you want to observe the code, the law of war. 哎，打仗也要有什么？这叫什么？打仗也要有原则哈。Okay, so you need to fight a war following some principle, but nobody really followed the principle because in World War II, more civilians died than soldiers. Okay, so here, then you have the nuclear age. Okay, this is a second one, important part about Obama when he met the Russian president. He wanted to have denuclearization and nuclear-free world. So, and then you have the coming of the nuclear age. Most people believe that to victor and vanquish alike means if you're victorious or you've been destroyed, the world needs institution to prevent another world war. Means after World War II, everybody knew with the nuclear weapon, you need to control that. It's even more terrible than before the end of World War II. Okay, so here, the United States Senate reject the League of Nations after Woodrow Wilson suggested that, which he said received the prize, right? Woodrow Wilson, so ironic, received the prize because of his pursuit of peace and introducing the League of Nations, and then the American Senate rejected. So that was one. And America led the world in construct, but after World War II, it's different, right? So they constructing an architecture to keep the peace. Marshall Plan. Earlier we mentioned that, right? Already you have the Marshall Secretary of State, Marshall Plan for the recovery of Europe, and then a United Nations as well. So these are mechanisms to govern the wagings of war. How do you wage a war? Treaty to protect human rights and also prevent genocide, also control the weapons. Okay, so he said mostly this succeeded terrible war have been fought, but still you still have war being fought and atrocities committed. There being no third world war. Now, how many of you, as elementary school kids or later, have ever heard of something called the Third World War? 有没有人听过？有没有老师在跟你们讨论第三次世界大战？ No, but when I was growing up, we were constantly reminded the possibility of a Third World War. 第三次世界大战。I mean, it's not in your vocabulary or in our conversation in the past 20 years. But in the 70s and 80s, it was there. Okay, but so we don't have a Third World War. The Cold War ended, dismantling the Berlin Wall. Commerce stitched much of the world together, connected, sewing. Billions have been lifted from poverty, liberty, self-determination. All this advanced. So the generation before us did very good to help us, and so he mentioned some of acknowledged those, saying the country should be proud. But then into the decade now of the 21st century, old architecture buckling down means collapse now under the weight of new threats. So the new threat, like the terrorist attack. Before you have it's no longer the nuclear superpower. United States and Soviet Union will fight. But proliferation. Okay, here is one word. I think we talked about this word before. 郭清还有尤清燕，有在吗 ？Yeah. What is this proliferation? Proliferation. Like in Taiwan's classroom right now, especially in National Taiwan University Medical School, we can see the proliferation of the lunchbox with chicken legs. 鸡腿扩散. What does that mean? Proliferation, 扩散. What does 扩散 mean? I mean, this is a great university. I have been told by my former assistants who are teaching in some of the new science and technology university, right? The classroom is proliferated with apple daily. Well, no, they are not taking care of their health like an apple a day. Keep the illness away. So they are saying apple daily, keep the professor from, I don't know. 他们都在看苹果日报，整个，然后买了3份，大概每个人发1张，全班都可以看。Okay, that's the proliferation. Okay, so here, what do we mean by proliferation? Of what? Yeah, especially nuclear, right? Nuclear proliferation. Or weapon of mass destruction. So proliferation means everybody is having a hand, including Taiwan. Oh, we're getting some real nice helicopter. We're getting some submarines. Okay, but those are for defensive. Okay, we are peace-loving people in Taiwan. We only acquire defensive weapons. But this is the danger. You have proliferation may increase the risk of catastrophe, terrorism. Okay, used to be a tactic. You try to scare people, but now a modern technology allows a few small men with outsized rage. Means I'm not happy with America. I'm going to kill. In order to keep me happy, I got to kill at least 500 Americans. Okay, so that's outsized rage, right? To murder innocent on a horrific scale. So this is the danger. And also, war, we don't have a lot of war between nations, so we call international war. No international, not a lot of, we call international war. But we have a lot of intranational war. So here, Annie, what do we mean by international and intranational war? Okay, between two nations or more countries, intra. Or domestic civil war. So within nations, we have more and more intranational war. And resurgent ethnic, sectarian means different groups, conflict. Secessionist, what do we mean by secessionist, Ms. Lee? Not secession, secession. Secessionist. Oh, that's Taiwan. Taiwan has been accused by China of involving in a secessionist movement. 分离主义 right? 搞独立啊，台湾这些人就想搞独立。Okay, that's secessionist movement, right? Insurgency means rebellions. Okay, and failed states. Failed states, like those countries are totally disaster. Country like we don't know what's going on. Like Rwanda before one time, now it's a nice country. But like currently we have Zimbabwe, it's a failed state. People also talk about certain, former Soviet republic being failed states. We can talk about Myanmar being a failed state. So all this have increasingly trapped civilians in unending chaos. So it is domestic war right now. In the past 20 years, it's more scary than international war. So not a lot of countries are fighting against each other, but countries are fighting within themselves. Okay? So today's war, many more civilians are killed than soldiers. Of course, they are in countries, for example, like Zimbabwe, countries like Sudan, you don't have a lot of soldiers, but mostly being killed are civilians. So the seeds of future conflict are sown, means you kill people, they will take revenge. So more conflict. Economies wrecked, civil society torn asunder, refugee and children scarred, leave the scars, right? So refugee amass, a lot of refugee. So become So here, Obama said, I don't have a solution to the problem, but this is the same vision, he said, you should have to go to fight this war and to think a new way about notion of just war and imperative of just peace. So again, just war. Obama doctrine, I think, key word, just war. Okay? So here, he said, it's very important to fight a just war. So he said, first, the hard truth. You cannot eradicate, means wipe out every violent conflict in our lifetime. Okay, so that's reality. But there will be times when nations acting in concert. Wow, what does that mean, in concert? Wang Weijie. Yeah, what do we mean? If you go to a concert, that's when the national leader, sitting to listen to the three great tenors, 去参加音乐会吗? What does that mean, in concert? Individually or in concert? 国家或单独或者去参加音乐会? Yes. What do we mean by in concert? Means concerted, means 一致, together. There was one time a concept called the Concert of Europe. And people say, the Europe, the Polish pianists, all this, composers and Austrians, so it must be a great concert. No, the Concert of Europe means the European will act together. Okay, so here is acting together. They will find the use of force not only necessary, but morally justified. So, never call Obama someone a pacifist. What do you mean by pacifist? Cool. Ms. Wang, what is a pacifist? Can you see? Okay, I'll write it a little bit bigger. What is a pacifist? 爱好和平. Everybody is peace-loving, right? I mean, no one will say I'm not a peace lover. Everybody loves peace. But what do we mean by pacifist? Pacifist means I love the peace so much, I would never go to war. So how do we call that kind of people? 反战主义. Okay? People who will not go to war, pacifist. Okay? For example, a pacifist in Taiwan will say, hey, I cannot be drafted to the military. because I'm a conscientious objector. 我是良心反战。Okay? So if you draft me to the military, I will refuse. So in Taiwan, how can you refuse an obligation? So you will be arrested and put in jail. Okay. In the past, we have a lot of people who were in jail because they were pacifist. But now we call replacement service. You can go to the military. You're being drafted, but you can work other duties, right? Helping hospital, helping, senior care center, or go to Africa to work as, foreign diplomatic services. So all those can be done now. But before, we have pacifists who will be put in jail. Okay, not anymore. So but Obama is not a pacifist because he believes, right? You can use of force. Sometimes it's necessary. Also can be morally justified. Okay, so that's him. But when he said that, he said, "Ooh, I know." Martin Luther King once said, "Violence never brings permanent peace. It solves no social problem, merely creates new and more complicated ones." And he said, "Well, I'm here because of Dr. King, Martin Luther King's. I have a dream, right?" And Obama realized, I realize your dream. Okay, so he's a living testimony of the moral force. Means nonviolent can be very powerful, like Gandhi. The British simply have no way of handling Gandhi. When people say, "I'm not going to fight against you. Even if you hit me, I'm not going to fight back." That's very powerful. So this is Martin Luther King. But he said, "I know there's nothing weak, nor passive, nothing naive." Okay, people will say, "Oh, those people are so naive." The pacifists, right? People will hold lines there and then, will not fight back. But in the creed and life of Gandhi and King, this should be highly respected. But he said, very importantly, he said, but I'm different. In Chinese, what do we say there? Well, I love Dr. King's idea, 但是我换了位置，我就换了屁股，我就换了脑袋, right? That's what Obama is basically saying. But as a head of state, sworn to protect and defend my country, I cannot be guided by their example alone. Sorry, I have other consideration. So what's other consideration here? He said, hey, evil do exist. A nonviolent movement could not have stopped Hitler's army. Oh, okay. Do you think nonviolence can stop Hitler's tank? Like Tiananmen, that little guy standing before that one tank. Oh, I remember all the German tanks. That's more powerful, right? So peace, nonviolence probably cannot stop Hitler's army. Negotiation cannot convince Al-Qaeda of whose organization? Osama, not Obama, okay? Osama's bin Laden's organization, Al-Qaeda. They will not lay down their arms. And to say that force may sometimes be necessary is not a call to cynicism. Means, you have to use force. No, that's not. 不是讽刺的. It is a recognition of history, the imperfection of people, and the limits of our reason. So, Obama doctrine, justice in war, justice of war, but no pacifism so far. Okay, we will continue to take a look. Okay, coming back to this speech, and here Obama mentioned about in many countries people there's a deep ambivalence, means they have reservation. They are not very sure about the military action today, no matter what the cost. You say, oh, I have a good reason to fight the war, but people are very suspicious. And then you also have people who say, America, the superpower, the only military superpower, is using force. That's deserves some kind of suspicion. So that's the problem. But Obama here is defending the United States, saying, hey, no matter how good international institutions, treaties, declarations that have helped the post-World War II world, but the real reason is United States has helped to keep global security for more than 6 decades. Okay? Now, very important word, 6 decades. On my way to here today, some people will accuse President Ma of having a schedule for unification because in an interview with Asian Wall Street Journal, President Ma Ying-jeou said, yeah, I think the two sides will talk about this in decades. But the translation said 10年内. Oh, so people said, Ma Ying-jeou has a hidden agenda for unification, but has been clarified now by the presidential office. They even rebroadcast the English version. Ma Ying-jeou said decades. Okay, but S was not translated. So everybody in Taiwan say, oh, okay, he's selling out Taiwan. Come on, we should fight. Okay, but he said maybe 2 or 3 generations, we don't have an answer. So decades, remember that S, okay? And with the blood of American citizens, yes, American, everywhere they die. Okay. So here he said, it's American who promote peace and prosperity from Germany to Korea, democracy take hold in places like the Balkans. Okay, here we have questions about Balkans. Yeah, what do we mean by Americans holding places like the Balkans? Where is the Balkan? Balkan Peninsula in Southeast Europe, Southeastern Europe, Balkan Peninsula. A lot of countries there. That's the reason for World War I as well. Balkans. 巴尔干半岛有听过吗? And then there is also a word called Balkanization. What does that mean? 巴尔干化. Oh, I love those 化. Like Ization. 化. Right? Socialization. 社会化. Right? Balkanization. 巴尔干化. What does that mean? Means because of the ethnic, linguistic, religious difference, there will be conflict and division, and then more division. So Balkanization means breaking up. Okay, the whole region. Formally, we only have one country there, major country. I mean, we have more, including Romania, Bulgaria, but we have one major country called Yugoslavia, and then other countries broke away from Yugoslavia, and then a lot of war. So, but holding the place together now, at least some of them have become members of NATO or European Union or becoming one. So America helped a lot, especially he is referring to the Bosnian War. Okay, America and the NATO forces went in there, the Bosnian War. So that's the Balkan intervention. Again, Balkan intervention in Bosnia, Herzegovina. I think we have to say it is a humanitarian intervention. this is very important for Obama doctrine. We talk about self-defense. We talk about just war. I think later you will find Obama mention one key word, humanitarian intervention. 人道干预. That's justified. So if China attacked Taiwan and starving Taiwanese people to death, the American probably, if Obama is still the president, he will intervene. Okay, that's humanitarian intervention. So he said we have borne the burden, means, carry this burden not because we want to impose our will. Yes, you want. But we have done so out of enlightened self-interest because you want a better future for children and grandchildren. You say, yeah, maybe we are selfish because we really want a better future for our kids and our grandkids. So that might be self-interest, but it's an enlightened one. Means it's a good self-interest. Okay? If everyone has a good self-interest, like I'm promoting, I'm asking people to do exercise, and I also do exercise. You say, what's the purpose? Okay, I have a self-interest in that. But that's a good self-interest, right? To keep yourself in shape. So this is what Americans say. We fought the war because we want to have a better world for our kids. And their life should be better if other children and grandchildren can live in freedom and prosperity as well. So here he says, the instrument means as a tool, the war does have a role to play in preserving peace. But it must coexist with other. No matter how justified, war promises tragedy. War is terrible. Okay? So it is not good. The soldiers, sacrifice and courage, glory, right? What do we have in our history who die in war, but we eulogize those people? 我们有没有历史里头学什么对哪一位去在战争里头的英雄牺牲奉献，然后来歌颂的有谁？帮我想一想。Can you think of one for me? Yes. 岳飞有死吗？没有当场死在战场啊。We are talking about someone who died. But usually, if you die in battle, you cannot be eulogized. 是这样的。假如你死在战场上，就不值得被尊敬了吗？有吧？太原500万人，有吗？对不对？还有谁？我记得有个什么师长。在太原500万人是自己杀着自己 ，OK？ But so that can be sacrifice or expressing devotion to country. So comrades in arms. For example, in war, people form very good close relationship. But all those are nice, glorious. But the war itself is never glorious. We must never trumpet as such, like, a great war. No great war. War is tragedy. Okay, that's what he is saying. But he said the challenge is reconciling the two irreconciling truths. That war is necessary, but sometimes, most of the time, the war is stupid. Fighting a war is sometimes necessary, but the war is a tragedy. The war is a stupid thing. So he said we need to do what focus, like Kennedy said, right, on a more practical, more attainable peace. You want to get peace. You don't want to fight a war if you can get peace without war. Based not on sudden revolution in human nature. Means, hey, people are so bad, you cannot change them right away. But on a gradual evolution of the institutions, of the organization, of the treaties, of the declaration, of all the agreements we can have. So a gradual evolution of human institutions. So for example, what do we have? In the 20th century, we have the League of Nations. Now we have the United Nations. So we have different kinds of treaty being signed. We have we call genocide convention. Means you do not kill people within your country. You know, people will say, "Hey, I'm going to have self-defense," or "This is a internal matter." No, genocide is an international concern. So human rights is universal. So that's what we call gradual evolution. What is it going to look like? What are some of the practical steps? He said very clearly here. Every country needs to adhere to follow the standard that govern the use of force. Okay, so again, justice of war, right? Or justice in war. Use at balance. He said, well, yeah. For example, he said, I, like any other state, head of state, I want to have the right to act unilaterally if necessary to defend my country. So I keep my right to fight. Not like Japan, right? Japan will never fight a war unless it is self-defense. Okay, that's very clear in Japanese constitution. In Taiwan, we have not given up that right. Okay, if we don't like some country, I think we can invade another country. I mean, it's not popular, but we can do that. You know, or you know, we for example, if we find our neighboring countries like the Philippines is harboring pirates who raided Taiwan, 有可能把菲律宾就是变成了攻打台湾海盗的庇护所。Maybe we can bomb Manila. Who knows, right? But we're not invaded by Philippines, but we can do that. So unilaterally, you have the right. You reserve that right. But he also said you have to follow the standard, international standard. Okay. Strengthen those who do. If they follow, help them. If they isolate those and weaken those who don't. If those who do not follow the standard, you isolate them or you weaken them. So here we have already just war principle being applied here. And then he said America was helped after September 11, and people continue to support American efforts in Afghanistan. I'm not sure they are really volunteer happy to support Americans, just being called to help. And this is the horror of the senseless attack. So people recognize the principle of what? Self-defense. Remember those keywords. Self-defense. And also people said, you cannot just invade another country like Saddam Hussein. First time, not the second time. In the Persian Gulf War, Iraq invaded Kuwait and annexed, took over Kuwait. You can never do that. So there is a consensus. You have to send a clear message. What do we see here? Is Obama, again, did not say the war in Iraq is self-defense. Okay? Or Saddam Hussein invited the attack, the invasion this time. Okay, Saddam Hussein didn't invade Kuwait. So he's just being accused by Bush and then being attacked, Iraq being attacked. So further, no nation, okay, or America included, can insist other countries follow the rule of the road if we refuse to follow them ourselves. So for example, if America said, hey, we want to just finish Saddam Hussein without no good reason, then you cannot expect or ask other countries saying, what is your reason? You know, if right now, for example, China attacked Taiwan, America says, stop, this is aggression. China said, what about Iraq? So what can United States respond? Saddam Hussein is a bad guy. China said, but Ma Ying-jeou is also bad. Okay, so very difficult. Huh? So here you have to set up the good example, because he said, if we don't, our action appear arbitrary, means only, by ourselves. 专断, undercut the legitimacy of future intervention, no matter how justified. So if you have good reason to intervene in the future, people still doubt. Because you have intervened before, that is not justified. This is very important because military actions is not just self-defense. It's also how to prevent the slaughter of civilians by their own government, stop civil war, right, as well. So you have to use force here on humanitarian ground. Humanitarian intervention like in Balkan or other places by war, scarred by war. So inaction tears at our conscience and can lead more costly intervention later. So for example, if you watch what happened right now in Darfur, you said, oh, that's bad. You feel you cannot sit on the sideline and watching the genocide there. Okay, so that your conscience has been condemned. But more late, if you don't do it now, and later you still have to intervene, the cost will be higher, right? That's what he is saying here. And he also said why all responsible nations must embrace the role that military with a clear mandate can play to keep the peace. If you intervene early to stop something bad, clear mandate, then you can keep the peace. The worst one is you don't have a clear mandate. Why are you intervening? Because our president said we should do it. Okay, what is your objective? You need to have that. Okay, very clear. So here he said, American commitment to global security would never waver, but when you have more diffuse threat. Okay, now what do we mean by threat being more diffuse here? 简英哲、陈孝轩. Yeah, what do we mean by threat being more diffuse? Do you understand what is diffuse? D-I-F-F-U-S-E. I don't even know how to say it in Chinese. Diffuse means almost like decentralized. Do you understand decentralized? Centralized. Decentralized. What does that mean? Sorry, I'll wake you up. Diffuse. 分散. Okay, almost like that. So the threat, like today for Taiwan, I think it's easier. Our only threat is from China. But for the United States, can be Cuba, can be Venezuela, can be North Korea, can be international terrorists from Malaysia, from Indonesia to Pakistan to Middle East to Africa, and can be from Russia. Who knows? So America has a lot of threat here, very diffuse, right? And missions more complex. What are you going to do there? Different places. So in Afghanistan, that's the case. Okay. Failed states in Somalia, you have terrorism, you have piracy. We love Somali pirates, right? Somali pirates are very high-tech pirates. You know, they have a great network, and they were even involved in stock exchange. 不要小看索马利的海盗. Okay, I just learned earlier, Somali pirates have been nominated as one of the 10 candidates for Man of the Year. 今年提名就是时代风云人物之一提名就有可能考虑人选之一，索马利海盗。 Somalia 海盗 okay? So, and they are joined by famine and human suffering. So, that region will have a lot of years of instability. So here it's very complex. America also have to face pirates in Somalia as well. NATO countries here, he's saying, and other friends and allies, they have support America in Afghanistan, but many other countries said, hey, there is a disconnect. I do not see the link between the efforts of those who serve and the ambivalence of the broader public. There are a lot of people that, some people who serve in Afghanistan, they put out efforts, but a lot of American people or other countries, they have reservation about this. So he said, why war is not popular? But he said, yes, the peace is desirable and rarely enough to achieve it. Okay, it's difficult. Peace requires responsibility, sacrifice. So you need to support my effort, Obama's effort in Afghanistan. I think that's what he is saying. Now, this is, he said, why we honored peacekeeping forces and training abroad. Oslo and Rome, no problem, capital. Ottawa and Sydney, any question? This is how you always use it. From Oslo to Rome means what? From Northern Europe to Southern Europe. From Ottawa to Sydney means from what? From Canada to Australia. North Hemisphere to South Hemisphere. From Dhaka to Kigali. Now, what is Dhaka and Kigali? Where is Dhaka? No, this is not. The Dhaka in Africa is this one. Dakar. That's the capital of Senegal. This is, I think, we need to get a Beijing person to pronounce the word. Dakar. Car. But this one is like a Taiwan pronunciation. Dakar. Okay. So we don't have that So where is that capital? Bangladesh. Ever heard of Bangladesh? Ever heard of a team from Cincinnati called Bengals? Cincinnati football team, American football team. 辛辛那提什么？美洲虎队不是，那是 Jaguar. What is Bengal? 美洲豹。Bangladesh. No, 孟加拉虎。Bangladesh, 孟加拉。Okay. And Kigali, where is Kigali? Capital of Rwanda. Okay, now, these are all countries who send a lot of peacekeeping forces. Norway, Italy, Canada, Australia, Bangladesh. Bangladesh is very popular in Africa because they send a lot of people to do peacekeeping. Kigali, the Rwandan forces as well. So we honor them not as makers of war, but of wagers. But wager means, wow, wage war. No, wage peace. Wage war means you create war. No, they create peace. Okay, so because they are peacekeeping. So that's another side. Okay, peacekeeping, he support. And very important here, let me, he said, make one final point about the use of force. Right? He said, difficult decision about going to war. Also think clear how we have to fight it. Where is my use at balance? How do you fight a war? In a war, use at balance. Okay. He said the first peace prize went to Henry Dunant, the founder of Red Cross. Okay. And also behind Geneva Convention. So what is Geneva Convention? Chen Yingru. 在吗？李婉晴，贝罗安， What is Geneva Convention? About what? No, Geneva Convention, you need to watch a lot of Hollywood war movies. If you watch a lot of war movies, what will you learn from those? They will say, like, according to the Geneva Convention, we are entitled to at least some water or food, right, as war prisoners. Oh, you cannot say, hey, you're war prisoners. Okay, well, you can eat what the dogs do not eat and left over from the dog. Okay, so that's what Geneva Convention. Geneva Convention is at least, even if you capture some of the, enemies, you have to treat them in a decent manner. So Geneva Convention, very important one, and Henry Dunant, the head of the founder of the Red Cross. So here I think he's saying first prize went to him, Nobel Peace Prize, went to the founder of the Red Cross. And also, Red Cross means if someone got hurt, you have to allow treatment. You say, this guy is an enemy, let him just sit there and die. No, if you have to allow him some medical treatment. So here he said, force is necessary. You have a moral and strategic interest in binding ourselves to the rules of conduct. You still have to follow 战争还是有战争法则. Okay, so even as we confront a vicious adversary that abides by no rule. So if the other guy, for example, if the Japanese, right, conducted or committed the crime of the rape of Nanjing, and the Chinese said, so, a tooth for a tooth, why don't we have a rape of Dongjing? Okay, so even if your enemy, adversary, abide by no rules, I believe America must remain a standard bearer. Means you have to carry the standard, right, in the conduct of war. So here, he said, that's how make America different from the other country. That's America's strength. Why? Obama pointed out he prohibit torture. People say, these are the soldiers who just raped, innocent, women in a war. So of course we can torture them, right? But that's against Geneva Convention. You're not supposed to torture your enemy who have been captured by you. So he was against torture. He wanted to order the prison at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba closed. He said American will abide by the Geneva Convention. Conduct of war. Justice in war. Justice of war. Already mentioned justice in war. We lose ourselves when we compromise the very ideal that we fight to defend. You want to defend, you fight this war, but in fighting the war, you violated international norm or rule. That's wrong. So by holding them, not easy, but when it is hard to hold them, you have to hold them. Okay? And this is where I think Obama began to talk about another 3 very important points of Obama doctrine. How do you find this lasting peace? The first one is like, how do you deal with countries that break rules and laws? Okay, so he said first, you have to find alternative to violence, means war. Okay, but that alternative must be tough enough to challenge, to change their behavior. Not fighting them, but other ways. If you want a lasting peace, international community community must mean something. Okay, the words means we said we're going to have a sanction. Yes, you're going to have a sanction. Those regimes that break the rule must be held responsible or accountable here. Sanction must be exact, a real price. For example, some countries really bad. What kind of sanction do we have for African leaders? Saying you have a travel ban. 你不能出国旅行了。Is that good enough? Probably good enough for some of the African leaders, especially their wife who want to go to Paris to shop, during Christmas. 对那些哇，那个老婆马上说 change something. I need to go to Paris, to do my Christmas shopping. So that I think it's still powerful. How many of you think it is not powerful enough? 你们觉得禁止那些独裁者的老婆不能去法国巴黎去耶诞节购物是很严重的这个管制吧？应该是啊。Okay, it's almost like restricting some people in Taiwan, saying, I think the most powerful sanction in school or at home will be you have no access of internet. I think most of you probably collapse. I mean, don't know what to do. Like my life is meaningless. I have no future. So that might be so. Sanction has to exact a real price. Okay? Intransigence means people who just uncompromise or uncompromising must be met with increased pressure. You need to put pressure and exist only when we are tough together. What does that mean? In Zimbabwe, very bad situation. Robert Mugabe cannot travel to Europe or America, but he can go to China. So China is not with the rest of the world in putting sanction on Zimbabwe. To Obama, that will not be effective because Robert Mugabe said when he traveled to China and then returned home, he would say, I have not been isolated because I just came back from China, my only friend. But still, that's not good, okay? Especially right now, why do you need to go to Paris to do shopping? You go to China, you go to Yiwu, you go to Guangzhou, you buy all the counterfeit stuff. It's the same. 到中国还是一样买，全是名牌，山寨版。Okay, but that's still. But I don't know whether the wife care. Okay, so that's, I think, pointing to something that if you have sanction, you have to be concerted. Remember that word, concert of Europe. Concerted means together. One example to prevent the spread of nuclear weapon, urgent example, for example, you find a world, you want to have a world without nuclear weapon. So in the middle of the last century, most countries agree, say, why don't we sign a treaty, Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, Non-Proliferation Treaty, 核子不扩散条约. Here, says, okay, very clear, every country, you sign this, you will get peaceful nuclear power, like Taiwan. But I'm sorry, we are not a member because we are not a member of the United Nations. But let's say South Korea, they have access of peaceful nuclear power. Those without nuclear weapons, okay, will forsake them, means we are not going to pursue nuclear weapons. And those with nuclear weapons that we will work toward disarmament means gradually reduce them and then get rid of them. So he said, I want to hold this treaty, uphold this treaty. Centerpiece of foreign policy here, denuclearization. Okay, working with President Medvedev of Russia to reduce that. Nuclear stockpile is like piling all kinds of nuclear weapons, right? So that's the first one, is dealing with the troubled countries and using the nuclear weapon as an example. He said, but it is also incumbent, means the responsibility is there to insist nations like Iran and North Korea do not game the system, means gamble, or take advantage of the system. Those who claim to respect international law cannot avert their eyes when they are being flaunted, means they have been challenged. You cannot, look the other side. Care about their own security, cannot ignore the danger of armed races in Middle East, East Asia, and stand idly by, as nation arm itself for nuclear war. So here you have North Korea and Iran. What do? You cannot just sit on the sideline. And this is the principle saying, hey, if they violate international law, you have to do something. Like also in Darfur, there is a genocide in Darfur, systematic rape in Congo, repression in Burma. Must be consequences. Cannot get away with them. There will be engagement. So what do we mean by engagement? 肖崇哲 Yeah, what do we mean by engagement? 你要跟他们去订婚吗? No, what do we mean? I think we discussed this word several times now. What do you mean by engagement? Engagement, not containment, containment, engagement, congagement. So what is engagement? Do we want to go back here to look at the engagement? Ooh, where is my engagement? Oh, here. Ooh, look at engagement. Mr. Shao, does that help you? Containment, engagement, congagement. To work together, or at least engage means let's talk, let's dialogue, let's instead of trying to isolate you, we try to deal with each other. Okay, diplomacy. Engagement basically means diplomacy here. So, will be engagement, yes, but there will be diplomacy, but there must be consequences when those things fail. Means I try diplomatic effort, I try to talk to you, but if they fail, hey, we have other means. Closer stand together means all the powerful country less likely will be faced with the choice between armed intervention and complicity in oppression. Means you don't have to choose between, do you want to intervene to stop the tragedy, or are you being complicit in oppression? Means people are oppressing other people, but hey, you don't do anything. You tolerate. So if you engage, if you punish them, then they will stop the tragedy. So that's what. So this is where he is saying, for those, remember coming back here, nation break the rule of law. They have to have consequences, but not just war or violence against them. You also have alternative. Alternative means diplomacy. Alternative means engagement, and then of course you can have sanctions. So all those are not the last resort, right? War will be the last resort. Okay. The second point is the nature of the peace. What kind of peace? He said peace is not just what? Absence of conflict. I love those kind of definition, right? So what is peace? Peace is absence of war. What is being single? Being single is absence of marriage. What is being a politician is absence of holding an office. So that's the peace is not just when you have no conflict. That's peace. No, he said only a just peace. Again, justice, just, 公义的 peace, based on inherent rights and dignity of every individual can be lasting. So he's thinking about the lasting peace, but a lasting peace has to be a just peace. Otherwise, it cannot last. So this is why the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was saying, you need to protect certain basic value in the wake of devastation, and recognize if human rights are not protected, peace is a hollow promise. So you need to protect basic human rights. And yet often they are ignored. Okay, so here he's talking about countries. There's some countries' failure to uphold human rights excused by the suggestion that, human rights, that's Western thing. We Chinese, we don't need human rights. That's probably the reason you have a sign where I visited in Guangzhou a few days ago. Local people told me, this is the park, this is the place where they used to have a sign saying, no Chinese and dogs are permitted. 公园有没有？租界地的公园，就华人与狗不得进入。No wonder we said, human rights is Western ideas because we compare ourselves as dogs. But this is something people say. Hey, Iranians, their women, basically are a property of the males. So they don't have individual human rights. So that's an excuse, okay? Saying, this is a Western principle. Foreign to local culture means our culture, we don't have human rights. And also, or in a different stage of national development, we are a poor country. Poor country don't have the luxury for human rights. Right? So, for example, in China right now, say we need to develop, we need to build all this transportation, all this infrastructure. So you cannot be the nail household. 钉子户。你说老百姓有迁徙的自由，我不动。Sorry, okay. I love those stories. Now, they said some of the 钉子户. The old ladies, they refuse to move out. And then there will be some social worker taking you to the hospital during the day. And when you return, the house is gone. Okay? Or some people who refuse to leave their little household there, and then suddenly find out rats, snakes, all coming into the house. Okay? So, but hey, basic human rights, okay? Not just Western thing, okay? Not just countries in the advanced level, okay? Even the country emerging or developing, you have human rights. Okay, so do not use that as excuse. Within America, you also have a tension between realist and idealist, okay? Tension suggests that a stark choice between narrow pursuit of interest, okay, or that's realist, saying, only care about what's good for America. Idealists trying to impose value around the world, everywhere. Obama already said in his book, The Audacity of Hope, that's wrong. Both are wrong. He rejects both choices. He said peace is unstable when citizens are denied the right to speak freely or worship as they pleased. Okay, choose their own leader or assemble without fear. Meet together and do not have to worry. Panda means what? Pen means like lock up. Okay, grievances means if you try to control the grievances, people are not happy, right? You try to control them, they faster means they grow even faster. Okay? And the suppression of tribal religious identity can lead to violence. You say, hey, sorry, there is no such thing called Tibetan. You are Chinese. But that suppression of religious or tribal identity will have more violence. And he said also the opposite is true. Means, when Europe, for example, became free, finally find peace. Okay, if you have freedom, you have peace. If you don't have peace, you don't have freedom. Okay. America never fought a war against a democracy. So here we have something interesting about never fought a war against democracy. 黄伟志. What do we mean? Is it really the case? America fought war, for example, Iraq is not a democracy, Afghanistan is not, Vietnam, North Korea, Germany, Japan. Panama. Yeah, one time. Little war, okay? Mexico before, Spain. But there was one war America fought in 1812 against Great Britain. But that's, a different story. I think that's the only one. Still, there is a thesis here, a theory saying democracy never fight democracy. Democracy fight war, but against authoritarian government. So, if we somehow get China to become democratic, then we will not be, facing the danger of, China trying to annex Taiwan. But further research found out, yes, democracy will not fight a democracy. But when a country is on the way becoming democracy, that's the most dangerous one. So how do we make China a democracy, but somehow, getting the process real fast, and then just blink of eye, China become democracy, so no war. But if China is, democratizing, that's the most dangerous. So do you want a democratizing China that is more dangerous, or do you want an authoritarian China that is less dangerous? But democratizing China at the end may become no threat to Taiwan. So we need to take that risk. So this is Obama is saying America never fought against a democracy. Our close friends, our government protect rights of their citizens. How loosely defined means how roughly defined. Neither American interests nor the world are served by denial of human aspiration. So here he is talking about intervention to protect human rights, respect unique culture and tradition of different countries. America, will be a voice for those aspirations that are universal, but they are also unique culture. Okay. So America support, for example, Aung San Suu Kyi, right? Aung San Suu Kyi. So who is she? 何新嘉. Yeah, who is Aung San Suu Kyi? Is it a Japanese lady? Suu Kyi? Aung San Suu Kyi. 还是舒淇取了一个什么名字？翁山书记有听过吗？ Who is what nationality? Burmese, okay, Myanmar, 缅甸人 right? Bravery of Zimbabweans, 辛巴威人 cast their ballot in the face of beatings. You know it might be dangerous. Hundreds of thousands marched silently through the streets of Iran. After the presidential election in Iran, people protested, saying the election is rigged, is, 作弊的啊. It is telling that the leader of this government fear the aspiration, 他们的热情, 期待 of their own people more than the power of any other country. Okay, and it is the responsibility of the free people to make clear that this movement, for hope and history, they have us on their side. Okay, so that's Obama's view. And I just want to finish here with one example he mentioned. He said, America, do you like China during the Cultural Revolution? No. But Nixon, during the Cultural Revolution, went to China and opened up China. Look where China is today. If United States said, hey, China, look, Cultural Revolution, bad, right? All this communist, and you do not try to engage China. That would be bad. But here, he said, in the light of the Cultural Revolutionary horror, Nixon's meeting Mao appeared inexcusable, saying, how can you meet Mao Zedong, right? The what do we call it? The butcher, one of the big butcher of 20th century. Yet it surely helped to set China on a path. Millions of citizens being lifted from poverty and connected open society. So he also mentioned about Pope John Paul II visiting Poland and all that. So engagement. We will stop here, and you try to finish the rest and think about how does this Obama doctrine means to you, okay? Because we're going to ask you to answer an essay question in the final about Obama doctrine. Okay, so you have to write something, organize something your own, okay?